Welcome to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Jen Du Plessis, and in this dynamic series, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and victories of entrepreneurs who have turned their passion into success. Welcome. Welcome back to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Jen Du Plessis. Today, I have with me Richard. He is from Richard Levy. Levy or Levy?
Levy. No,
everybody pronounces it a little different. Yeah, I know somebody else Levy here, but Richard is the founder and CEO of Sophera Marketing, which is with a wealth of experience in driving commercial success across the globe. He has extensive experience in building and enhancing brands through every marketing channel. He's led high-performing teams in the UK, the EMEA, and North America for luminous companies such as GE, Santander, First National, and MoneyGram. He's also worked with a number of UK-based companies, and his expertise spans digital marketing, brand management, CRMs, and analytics. I'm watching you watch this. Hey, you're pretty impressive, right? You're kind of impressing yourself there.
It sounds impressive.
I know, I love it. Analytics, research, strategy development, social media, agency management, and marketing communications. So everything marketing. So I want to start off with, a quick story. When the pandemic came, and this relates to business. When the pandemic came, I was a traveling speaker. I was speaking on stages, and I thought, what am I going to do now, right? And up until that point, I would sit on an airplane, and if it was delayed or I had a few minutes, I would think, I probably should do a social media post about the fact that I'm on this plane or something. And so I call it, with my clients, random acts of marketing. Random acts of marketing, right? And then after the pandemic or during it, I learned, oh no, I can't have random acts of marketing. So the first question I really want to ask you is, why do business owners do random acts of marketing, and how does it actually hurt them?
Firstly, it's lovely to be here. And secondly, thank you for that very enthusiastic background on me. It makes me sound very grand and impressive. And so thank you. I'm very humbled. So let's get to your question. Why do people do random acts of marketing, and why does it not work? Most people are not trained in marketing, quite honestly, which is fine because everyone has different professions and different skills, and marketing is out there as one of those. So therefore, they don't really. They think, well, if I do this, it will be interesting, and other people will sort of see where I am and what I'm going through, etc. But of course, what that's not doing is looking at it from a sort of viewer's point of view. So if you were, say, to be on Facebook, let's just say, and that's got all your social friends on it, and you said, hey, I'm in Chicago airport, or whatever airport it was you were referencing, they may find that quite interesting because they're probably on Facebook to see what you're up to in your spare time. If you were to put it onto LinkedIn, which is more of a sort of business networking platform, the fact you're in Chicago airport probably doesn't really matter to that many people. They'll be like, okay. It's like, okay. So I think it's about sort of choosing what platform to promote what on. So if you look at someone like me, I have a Facebook account and an Instagram account, which are linked, and then LinkedIn. What I will post on LinkedIn is very different to what you'll post on Facebook because it's a different audience. So the question of why does it not work, or does it do any harm? It probably doesn't do any harm particularly, but it probably doesn't do much good either. So it may, I don't know. I mean, it's just not, unless there's something observational there, which is interesting. I was on a train, I'm in London, so I was going to sort of north of England, and I was on a train, and they have different pricing in the UK where if you travel before 9:30 in the morning, it's very expensive because it's the supposed peak time. Yeah. And if you travel after 9:30, it gets much cheaper. So I'm on an 8:30 train, so this peak train, and no one else is on this carriage with me. Like literally I'm on my own. And I posted something to LinkedIn, observationally saying, something is broken here because the 8:30 train that I'm on is empty. Here's the picture. And at 9:30, everyone's going to be standing up and clamoring for seats because it's a fifth of the price. And it got like 500,000 impressions on LinkedIn and 5,000 comments and 8,000 reposts because people could relate to it. People had had that frustration of either being on an empty train and then having to get one an hour later that then is very busy. So if you do a post that just randomly says, here I am, try and add a bit of context and something that people might find interesting. And I think you'll then get people to react to it. But just here I am at Chicago Airport.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't interest that many people outside your close circle of friends.
Well, and I think, and I mean, that's a really good point. I love that. And I think that what happens is that business owners then get disgruntled and say, social media doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't work for me because I've been doing random acts of it. I'm not willing to hire a true marketing expert. I'll just kind of figure it out and rummage through my own brain and what I've heard about it. And then they come to the conclusion that it doesn't work, work for them. When you started your business, let's talk about when you started your business. How long has your business been in place now? How many years?
Yeah, so it's about 18 months. So it's coming up to its sort of second year at the end of 2025. Okay.
And what did you do before?
So I had 20 odd years in very corporate companies that I won't list again because you sort of skillfully went through them at the beginning. Yeah. And I eventually was leading marketing departments pretty much globally. Yeah. And then I actually thought there were a lot of businesses out there who have no access to marketing support and are doing things exactly like you've described, where they're sort of doing random posts and it's not really working. So I think when you start a business, there's two questions you have to ask yourself. One is there a gap in the market? i.e., am I going to be, is there enough room for me? Or is this, I'm not going to open up another pizza joint because we have 50 pizza joints, right, where I live. So consequently, there's not a gap in the market. But the second question, and I don't think when people are starting a business, they ask themselves this enough, is there a market in the gap? So is there a gap in the market? But then when you find the gap, is there actually demand for what you want to do? There might be a reason that there's a gap, and that's because there isn't the demand for it. So consequently, I asked myself those two questions when starting a business. I didn't see people who had sort of the 25 years experience that I'd had in the corporate world, where I could give all those learnings to smaller businesses. So there was the gap, but then is the market there? Yes, because there's a lot of businesses who can't afford to do a course at Harvard or to hire a full-time marketing employee or to have a consultant come in on an ongoing basis. So you've got those two things hopefully combining, but you do need those two things before you start your business. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I love that that metaphor. I really love that metaphor, that contrast. Can you give us another example? So it worked for your business, right? Can you give us another example of maybe someone you've helped recently or someone you're looking to help because you see that there's a gap within, or there's a market within the gap? Can you give us another example so that someone can really drive in this thinking here?
So if you look into the future, firstly, none of us can really tell what's going to happen, as you know, because no one saw the pandemic coming, or I could name 20 things going on in the world right now that we didn't see coming. But I think if you look at trends, petrol and fossil fuels are probably on their way out because of the environmental damage, and cars will either go electric, which is where the trend is slowly moving to, or it might be hydrogen based. So let's just use that as a working assumption. I was helping a business who are in the fuel space, so the gas, as you would call it in the US, and fuel, as we would call it in the UK. If you're running a gas station now, that gas station probably hasn't changed for 40 or 50 years. Then what happens is that you can't make a lot of money out of the gas, certainly in the UK. It's quite a regulated industry. So what we then saw happen was that retail shops would appear within gas stations, within petrol stations. So you now buy your petrol or your gas, and then you go in and you buy a sandwich, a drink, a chocolate bar. And they tend to be very expensive because they're trying to make the margin on
Oh,
that.
to compensate for the gas. Yeah.
100%, 100%. You got it. You've also got a bit of a conflict going on there, because I don't know about you, but when I pull up to my gas or petrol station, I want to get in and out as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, what they want you to do is park, do your gas, go into the shop, have a look around. So it becomes a more prolonged experience.
Yes.
So there's a bit of a conflict there, which is quite interesting. The second thing that I was consulting with this company on is, what does the future look like? Because if the future is going, let's say it's electric, then at the moment I can only fill up my car in a petrol station or a gas station. But actually, what would stop a supermarket, a Walmart in your world, a Tesco in my world, for example, saying, I tell you what, you can fill up your electric car here for free,
Right.
let's just say, but you've got to spend $100 in my shop to do so.
Yeah.
So there's now quite an interesting encouragement where someone is saying, well, I'm not going to go to a petrol station anymore, a gas station. I'm going to go to my supermarket to do it. The supermarket gain, because they're guaranteed you're going to spend $100. They make sure your car fills up nice and slowly, so it's not done within 10 minutes, it's done within the hour. So you need an hour wandering around the store, and you can see where it's going to.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing where you need to look to the future and say, is there a gap in the market? Where's the market? So if I'm now owning a traditional gas station, where do I need to get to? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you don't do, which is what they all started doing in the last 10 years here, is where you could pay at the pump. Because by paying at the pump, you're actually stopping people going into the store that you want them to go into to buy the chocolate and the crisps and all that.
Right. Which is
So
how it
it's
is
those
here.
kind of things
That's
where you
how
got
it
to
is.
look at.
Yeah. Okay. Great example. Yeah. Finding a market inside of the gap. I absolutely love that. Okay. So now, so interesting, because a lot of business owners, right, a lot of entrepreneurs now came from a career, myself included. Right. 12 years ago, I came from a corporate career. What was the most challenging part for you? And maybe you're still experiencing, because you're 18 months out of this. What is the most challenging part for you mentally, leaving corporate and the confidence and the knowledge and the credibility and the experience, and stepping into this world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting question. I think what I find most challenging mentally is it's quite isolating, because I work from home.
Yes.
And I could be sitting here on my own, having calls like this, but physically on my own in reality for 40 hours, 50 hours a week. And so I have to be really disciplined more than ever to say to myself, now it's time to take the dog for a walk. Now it's time to go for a shop. Now it's time to work from a different location, like a cafe where you can interact with people. Because you don't get that office
Environment. Yeah.
fellowship, camaraderie, call it as you will, and you're on your own. And I think that's something that entrepreneurs need to think about, because we're all human beings. We're all made as a relatively sort of social species who interact with other people and need to. And it can be lonely. And the second bit mentally, because it ties into it, if I may, is you don't have many people, if anyone, to bounce the ideas off anymore. So when you're sitting in an office and you think, I'm going to do A, you turn around to the person next to you and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
And they say, no, don't do that. Or yes, do that. Or what about this? And you debate it and you discuss it and you have a cup of coffee and you go to a room, the usual stuff. I have none of that. It's down to me to make those decisions. What clients do you want to work with? How much do you charge? What projects are most interesting?
What do you think? Yeah. Just having that advisor around you, right? That advisory team or board of advisors that, is not really named. It just happens to be that board of advisor. Yeah. I find that's very interesting. And I think the longer that people are entrepreneurs and working in the new age of environment that we're all in, 30 years from now, someone's going to watch this podcast, maybe, right? And go, wow, that was so weird that they were doing that, because we just don't know anything different. But I think the longer that we sit in this and have that, I call it a silo, right? Of being a silo, and being in that silo, the more that we lose those social skills, the more that
Yeah.
we use those creative juices, we're not tapping in because other people aren't asking us either, right? So it's not even us
Yeah.
asking. And I think the more
Yeah.
that we go inside and don't want to share, right? I mean, so we lose our vulnerability. Oh my gosh, it's early in the day. I haven't even done
You've
10,000
got it.
words and I can't say the word vulnerability, right? The
Yeah.
vulnerability, we lose that vulnerability, which is attractive to people too, because it's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I
Yeah.
don't want to share any of my issues, my problems, my anything, So I'm going to ask you to tie this into marketing because I think
Yeah.
that, right? And I hate when I say I think that. I want to say I know, right? I know
So you know.
that when you start looking at marketing, it's allowing for your expression to start happening,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Now you're saying, hey, I can tell the world, I can test this question, I can go out there and
Yeah.
I can split test it and I can get feedback. And maybe I don't have the people around me, but I need to be out there
Mm.
marketing. I need to be testing and researching and talking to people so that I can get that responsiveness. So give us a little bit of a take on this. I know you talk a little quite a bit about building a world-class marketing strategy. So tell us
Yeah.
how could this affect that loneliness that you say, or that silo opinion that we have, and how could it inspire us to get out there and really do
Yeah.
marketing instead of hoping and wishing?
No, it's a really, really good question. My goodness. I think, look, marketing ultimately is also about psychology and humans and people meeting people because it just is. It's a very human-led industry, obviously.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because in the end, people buy from people. Nothing changes that. In the end, if someone comes here and they want to fit windows in my lounge, then I'm still going to buy from that person. I have to have a trust, a rapport, a belief, who I can who can do work in my house. So one thing I would say for anyone sort of trying to sort of build a marketing world, which ties into what we were talking about, is get out there, meet
Yeah.
people, and talk to people. There is no better way than to understand your business and your customers and the world around them than actually talking to people and meeting people. And we actually get quite a lot of shocks. We hear things we don't expect. So let me give you an example. When I ran a team in Europe, if I had a meeting in Paris on
Mhm.
a Wednesday, I would try and arrive on the Tuesday and just wander around Paris, seeing what was happening, getting a feel for it, trying to understand the culture. How long did people look in the shops? What did they do? Where did they go? What was the general attitude? So when you then come to the meeting on the Wednesday, you understand much more about the market that you're in. And
Yes.
I have to say, one day in the field is worth 30 days in an office,
Oh,
because in
yeah.
an office, you're not living and breathing and seeing it. So
Mhm.
if I'm selling a drink in a bar, let's say this. So I'm selling a champagne. I'm just making it up.
Mhm.
Go and spend some time in the bars where your drink, whatever drink it is stocked, and just see, do people choose it? Does it come to mind? When do they use it? When do they not use it? Etc. Etc. Can they see it? Is it distinctive? So, is it, what drink shall I have that one? Because that one stands out to me more than the one next to it. You cannot learn these things from a textbook or staying at home or staying in an office. You can only learn it by going out and talking to people and watching. It's called ethnography in marketing, which is watching customers in their natural habitat, living and doing and seeing. And then you're going to get a great view of what your market is, because
Right.
that, I think, is tied into what I was trying to say before, which is I could sit here all day, but actually you would lose effectiveness as a consultant, a marketing consultant or a business consultant if you did that, because you would lose your connection with the outside world. So
Yes.
go out there, see people, talk to people, and watch people. You will learn. Just watch. If you're selling clothes Go into competitor clothing stores, see how they're doing it. Have a chat with people, chat to the lady serving you or the guy. Just learn, just learn.
Yeah. Well, and it's something that I do too, as a mentor, I'll hop on to classes of other mentors to see how the
Yeah,
delivery is, to see what the marketing is. My mentor calls it model, do the research, modeling and modification, right? It's like model what's working out there, but then modify
yeah.
it to your own style. So this is interesting too about how. So I'm going to ask you this question here in just a second about how someone can develop their style or discover their style, how that sort of happens. But
Mm.
another little quick story. So years ago, I had a catchphrase in my business. We used to be, I would call myself the hometown mortgage lenders because I was in mortgage loans. So I would say your hometown mortgage lender. And I lived in a fairly small town inside of a bigger area, right? I live outside of Washington, D.C., so everything's big, right? But it was a small town. And it was an incorporated town, which made it different and unique other than an area. And so everything would say your hometown lenders. Then later, I moved that phrase to experience matters, right? Because I had
Yeah.
been in the business for 20 some years. And so my little tagline was experience matters. So one day I got this not text, but I got a friend request from someone on Facebook. It was years ago when we were all accepting everybody. And we got that friend request, and I thought, well, let me go check out this guy. Went to his Facebook page, and on the page, he had my exact yellow ribbon of experience matters, right? And my first
Okay.
inclination was, well, that's a compliment. Wow, because why reinvent the wheel? Because that's what a lot of us think. However, when I started looking into who he was, he'd only been in the business for 4 months, and I had been in for 25 years. And I thought, yeah, experience does matter, and it doesn't align
Mm.
with you. So I'm
Mm.
going to go back to the original questions. This is why I was saying that, right? Is like
That's
copy
interesting.
and paste. There's some copy and paste that goes out there, but if you copy and paste the wrong thing that doesn't align with you, it's really going to hurt you. So how does someone new in business or in business for a long time and struggling with this identify their style, identify that side of them so that they know how the world sees them?
It's a really, really good question. Goodness me. There's two ways. There's a marketing answer or there's a human answer. Let's give the human answer. Um, the human answer is seek constructive feedback from people you trust. I like to say, and you were alluding to it before, um, have a bunch of sort of friendly critics around you. So
Yeah.
if there's people I really trust who give
Mhm.
feedback, then you really listen to them because all you know is that they have your best interests at heart. So all they want
Yeah.
to do is want you to succeed. It's a bit like if you're a parent giving feedback to a child, you have no other motivation other than for that child to do well in
Right.
soccer or hockey
Whatever
or
they're,
whatever
yeah.
you're
Yeah. Life.
yeah, well, you're a tennis coach and you're so someone once gave me a very good example of this where they said that if you go and have tennis lessons, I think was the example they used, and the coach said when you serve you're not keeping your right arm straight enough, as an example, you would take that feedback on board with no issue whatsoever because you genuinely believe inherently that clearly the motivation of the tennis coach is to make you a better tennis player.
Right.
Guess what? You straighten your right arm, you become a better tennis player. In this world of business, when you're developing a style of who you are, you have to ask people in the same vein you would ask your tennis coach, how do I improve? Let me know what I could have done better. So I don't know on this conversation we're having how I'm coming across to you. I have my own biased view on it, but I only see it from my perspective. I don't see it from your perspective or someone listening's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so wouldn't it be quite interesting afterwards to ask you, how did you feel it went? And then
Mm-hmm.
get feedback from listeners. And they said, oh, he talked in a way I couldn't understand. Let's just say that was the example, or his stories didn't make sense. Or then I learned for next time, okay, this is the bit I have to refine. This is the bit I have to get better. But it's only asking other people that that's ever going to get you there. And the risk, to use the word you used earlier on this sort of vulnerability, is that sometimes we then hear things we don't want to hear. But as
Yes.
long as that comes from people who have only our best interests at heart,
Yes.
surely that's a good thing. Otherwise, we stumble on doing what we think is right, when in fact, if we just kept our arms straighter, we'd be so much better. So I think you can always be yourself. We're all a little bit different, and that's what makes the world so wonderful. We're all unique. I'm sure when you do public speaking, it's different to how I do public speaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be good that when we've done that public speaking, if we just went up to someone we didn't know and said, hey, I saw you in the audience, can I ask you something? Just be really honest with me. How did you find it? What could I do better? That's always a really good question, that what could I do better? Because it's phrased in a positive way to say, well, it was quite good to start with, but how could I get better?
Right.
And it makes people really think.
Right.
I don't understand it. So,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah. I think what sometimes happens is that people say, hey, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong, rather than what could I do better? And that opens up Pandora's box for pain, right? Because people are like, oh, well, I'm happy to tell you what you did wrong, right? Versus what could I have done better? Yeah. And even in, even when I said that, when someone says, what did I do wrong? I think from A to Z, and I start picking out all the little parts. But when someone asks, what could I have done better? I'm now going, well, that was okay. And oh, that was good. And here's an area, right? Yeah. So it's not the whole gamut. It's isolating it down to, where it needs the adjustment. And that, I'm going to ask this question, that I feel then leads into, how much money and revenue and time and heartache and opportunity is lost by businesses that start out and just meander through this, as opposed to asking that. So what have you found in your experience has been the loss?
Let me give you a good example, a hotel. So when you check out of a hotel, they typically ask you, was everything okay with your stay? Did you enjoy your stay? I don't know the American culture particularly, but the British culture is, even if it was the most terrible stay, when they say, was your stay okay? We go, yeah, it's fine, thank you.
No, we do too. No, we totally do, unless I'm really mad.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really, really mad. Yeah, we're like, yeah, it's good, thanks. But wait till I write a review.
I know, I thought they said it was okay. Surely a better question to ask is, what could I do better? What could we have done to make your stay better? Because that makes me think as a customer, goodness, that's a good question. What could I have done better? Or what could they have done better for me? And it gives me very constructive feedback for them. And it makes me answer the question. So it takes away that ability for me to say, yeah, it was all fine, thank you. Very unlikely I'm going to say it was utterly perfect when someone says, what could I do better? And what we're losing by not asking that question is, how do we improve? So, for example, let me try and think of an example. In a physical store, this is a good example. We have a supermarket here, and they went out to their customers and said, what could we do better? And the feedback was quite overwhelming, having asked that question, which is, if I ask where an item is, can you show me where the apples are? I would love it if that person said to me, let me take you there.
Instead because of what they used to do was aisle this.
Aisle 7. And you always think, I wonder if it really is aisle 7, right, as the customer, because they seem to know that very quickly.
Or you look up for where's aisle 7? I can't find it. And it's not sequential, right? It's not sequential. It's turned and twisted and
go left here, go right there, and you'll find it. And if Dave's happens to be there, then you can pick up your apples, right? It's like, no. And it's still called Waitrose. And what they do is that they differentiate themselves by saying, let me come and show you. So they will, if it's a 5-minute walk or a 50-second walk, they will come and do so. Now that massively improves the customer experience. Suddenly you're in a different world. So now I go there because I think, the service is really good. And yet it's just that small, beautiful tweak, but they wouldn't have known it if they hadn't asked the question, what could we do better? Because no one ever left the store and said, you know what would be good is if someone could take me there. But when they were asked, what could I do better? Then we came back with the answer. So that's a really, you imagine how much lost custom there is in other shops that don't do that. You go, I had it the other day. I went to a store and I said, where's the sort of sat nav? Go to the back, turn right at the end. It's on the 4th file in. Oh, forget it.
And you end up asking 2 or 3 more people because where you went, this happened to my husband and I at the lumber store, right? The other day, we went to Home Depot and they're like, oh, it's aisle 17, should be down on the right by whatever. We went there, we didn't see it. We saw, no, hey, excuse me, someone told me it could be here, but it isn't, but then this, and then we ended up leaving. And you know what's funny?
Yeah.
We ended up leaving and going to the competitor, Lowe's here.
Yeah.
We ended up going to the competitor because we couldn't find it there. It probably was there, but we couldn't find it. So we went to the competitor and asked them, same thing. They're like, oh, whatever. So we went down, but we found it, you know, and that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Someone starting out, when they're the startup, let's talk about a startup, because obviously that's an established business. What happens when you're a startup and you want to do it right from day one?
Yeah, good question. I think when you're a startup, I think the principle of feedback continues. What I would say is that you have to be very market orientated. I always think that when you're a startup, it's a bit like people always think their kids are the greatest kids in the world, right? Everyone has the prettiest, the most handsome, the most intelligent, the most charming kids in the world. And yet if you turn it 180 degrees, not everybody feels that about your kids, right? Other people feel differently. And there's a little bit about that when you start up. What I always say to the startup person is show humility. You don't know everything. You have an idea. It might be a superb idea, but you're going to need other people to come on that journey with you. Very few people do it on their own. I mean, even, you know, people associate Apple with Steve Jobs, but Steve Jobs had a tech guy behind him doing all the stuff. So it's very rare you can actually do it totally on your own. But just be aware that how you see things may not be how the world sees things. And as a startup, very, very few products. No one, you know, when I started a marketing consultancy, no one was out there saying the world would be better with another marketing consultancy. I know what we need, another marketing. If only we had another marketing consultancy.
There's no one else who knows like I do. Yeah.
Yeah, the world is not waiting for me. So that humility to understand that and understand you have to build your reputation. The other little comment, because I do mentoring as well, I mentor CMOs and CEOs with the experience that I've had, is I tell them a really simple advice: walk, crawl, run.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people want to do is they just want to run.
Yeah.
And I say, sorry, I got my analogy wrong today. It's crawl, walk, run. So make sure, you know, start off crawling, go slowly, go carefully, build momentum, make sure you can crawl, make sure you're not going to hit any objects. Then you can start walking and you go a little bit further, but that's going to be a little bit challenging as well. That's the second phase. And then when all that is in place, then start running. What I see with a lot of startups is they want to go to 0 and 100 in
run
6 months. Yeah. And you just think you need to slow down.
I see that a lot in business too, you know, with what I coaching. It's funny that you say crawl, walk, run, because the other part is relax, maybe you could relax or rest and get ready for the next crawl, walk, and run.
Yeah.
Right? I do it a little bit different. Mine is formulation, concentration, momentum, stability. Now, new formulation, concentration. And it's funny, I'm going to be honest and vulnerable about this too, is that I just was part of a new program that I started, you know, late February, early April, or March or April. And I was so excited about it that I started running, because I had the foundation of a team that could take me to a run, you know, whereas I saw other people crawling and I was like, you know, I'm glad I'm not in that position anymore. I'm glad I can just run. But then guess what? I'm watching them be more successful in the results than I am. And it's caused me to go, you know what? I need to go back. I need to slow down so I can speed up instead of speeding up to slow down. And it caused me to step back and go, whoa, 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 I better start over here because I think I ran too fast. So, that happens in business, and that can happen with a tenured business like mine. It definitely can
Yeah.
happen. It's definitely a trap. Okay, so a couple of last quick questions as we finish up our time today. What's the biggest mistake you've made in your new business so far? And what can someone else learn from that mistake?
It's a good question. Not being clear who I'm really targeting. So I love the line that strategy is as much about what you don't do as what you do. And I think people need to remember that you have to make choices. So I started off going to very, very micro businesses and saying, hey, this is the service I offer. And they were all, we love this, but we don't have any cash. We don't have any money.
Right.
And so you think, well, I'd love to give all my advice for free. But unfortunately, I also have to feed a family and everything else. So it just doesn't quite work like that. So I think the biggest mistake I made was falling into a trap that's saying anyone who needs me early on, because when you're early, you want people to want you, you want the endorsement, you want to feel like you're making a difference, you want to feel like you made the right decision. You made a huge decision to come out of the corporate world.
Right.
And then you end up targeting the wrong people, having, I did a seminar the other day to a couple of thousand people joined on tips to do your small business. But probably most of that audience isn't relevant for me. And what would have been better was to do a presentation to 30 people from an audience who actually might want to buy from me and use my service. So ignore the vanity. Oh, I spoke to 2,000 people today, because actually, unless something tangible comes of it, so what? So that's number one. And the second one, if you can give me two lessons, because I make my fair share of mistakes, I'm sure, is not allowing myself time just to be kind to myself, to breathe, to go away for a week, to go on a walking holiday, to just stop, to turn off, to watch a film without constantly thinking, oh, I need to be following up on this email, I need to be following up on that lead, I need to be answering. It's all okay. It's all okay. And I think we're better at that in a corporate world where we have people around us than here. And if you go back right at the beginning of this session, you said, what's been the most difficult bit? And I said, when you're on your own, then that can make you even more, I need to do this, because the boundary isn't there. Where I think when you're in an office and everyone leaves at 6 o'clock or whenever it may be, there's a natural boundary. Yeah. Here, there's no boundary unless I create my own. And at the beginning, I found that a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, you are speaking my language. This is what I coach on, right? The movement, the shift in the identity change of being in the hustle to going to the harmony. Now, and when I say harmony, I'm spelling it money, right? The harmony, right? And it's making that shift, and not being stuck in your office. And I love that you've recognized it early on. That's really good to do that, because so many people don't even know that they have that problem. And that's, when I speak to a group, I'm trying to find the people that have the problem, that are like, I'm exhausted. I can't do this by myself anymore. I can't do it. But there are so many people in the crowd that are just startups, and they're like, I don't even know what she's talking about, because I don't have that problem. Because they haven't realized that they are a workaholic. Right? They haven't realized that yet. And so I'm Workaholics Anonymous when it comes to what I'm doing, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really what it's about. Well, I appreciate your authenticity in that and sharing that with people, because it is very good. Okay, my next question, as we end up our time together, is what have you done right that you want to share with people? Right? I don't want to end it like that. What have you done right that someone needs to hear? Oh, I have to do that.
What a lovely question. What have I done right is I did it. Firstly, a lot of people say to me, oh, I'd love to start my own thing, but, that awful word, but. At some point, the but has to go away. You're just going to have to say, I'm going to do it. And there's a safety net, because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that you can't go back into the old world. but you literally start with, if you recollect when you start your business, you don't have a name, you don't have a company, you're not registered anywhere, no one knows what you do. So there's quite a lot of foundational stuff you have to build. But I will give one final word of wisdom on this, is that if you're going to go and do your own entrepreneurship journey, my first 3 or 4 clients, which got me on my way, which gave me a bit of confidence, were all people that I'd worked with before, whether that was 5 years ago or in some cases 20 years ago. So my very significant client I had was a chap I worked with at GE in 2002. So what's that, 23 years ago? And we worked together, and he said, I always like working with you. I'm now doing my own business. I need some marketing support. Will you come along and do it? Now, who would have thought that over that period of time, that would have made such an impact? And so I always say to people, when you leave a company, you don't really leave. You leave the name, you don't leave the people, because everyone has an image of you. So have integrity, work hard, make an impact, because you never know when that will come back, maybe 5 years later, 10 years later. And when you go out on your own, your reputation is everything, because that's the only thing you have at the beginning.
Right.
So that's what isn't it interesting, the human psyche of how it's much easier to answer the question of where could you have done better, and then you say what have you done well, and that's actually a far more difficult question, because I don't think we sort of almost train ourselves to think need to do better. It's a really interesting question you ask.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of your insight. And we have your links so everyone can get in touch with you to come and speak at their company about marketing and how maybe they want to change their mindset about it, or speak at a conference, or someone who is in the position of saying, look, I don't know if I can really afford it, but I know that there's someone out there who's wanting to help me. I know it's going to cost me some money, but it's not going to maybe kill me to do it. Someone who's got this experience, and so that they can reach out to you and start working with you. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom today. I really appreciate it very much.
Really, really enjoyed it, and thank you for having me on. It was a brilliant experience, so thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so let me recap a couple of things. I always take notes while I'm doing this. I want to make sure, look for the gaps in the market, but then look for the market in the gap. Love that. Love that. So make sure you're writing that down. Richard also said, look, one day in the market is better than 3 days working on the marketing, right? And I probably paraphrase that a little different, and asking your clients and your referral partners and your colleagues and your advisory board, your undeclared advisory board, what could I or we have done better? What could we have done better? And be open to hearing, and don't do the yeah buts, when they respond. Just say thank you. Thank you, right? Remember to crawl, walk, and then run. Don't get out there and try to get ahead of yourself. Because if you're marketing to everyone, this is mine, by the way, if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. Right? And just do it. Do it now. Take the step, take that leap, take that next step. And don't forget that you have acres of diamonds under your feet in the relationships that you've had for years and years and years. Utilize them. Take off the binoculars, always seeking the next, and move those binoculars to right beneath your feet to get yourself started and give yourself that great boost and get that feedback that you need. And then put the binoculars on for growth. So having said that, thank you so much for listening today and spending time with us today. And Richard, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And I look forward to meeting you in London, I hope in November when I'm heading over there. So appreciate you being here today.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you again.
You bet. And just a reminder, everybody, be sure to click on the link below, Hustle to Harmony Masterclass. We have that on a regular basis. We would love to have you join us so that you can learn more about everything that we're teaching you here at Business on the Vine. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for joining us on Business on the Vine. If you found value in today's conversation and would like additional support, go to supportfromjen.com. Remember, the best ideas are always discovered on the Vine, so keep innovating, stay inspired, and continue to grow.